Rand al'Thor versus Daenerys Targaryen, the Mother of Dragons versus the Dragon Reborn, the Wheel of Time versus the Game of Thrones. That video that I did is actually one of the best viewed videos on my channel now, so this is probably going to be a highly watched, high pressure, don't freak out video. I'm looking forward to doing it. So getting into the 7 categories we're going to compare these two characters by, we have origin, development, role, interest for the reader, relationships, who would win in a fight, and the category that doesn't actually matter, that we all say matters, but it's really only a tiebreaker, which hasn't happened in a while, is who would do better in the other's world. Getting straight into this, origin. We have two characters whose origins walk very different beginning philosophies for the authors who are crafting them. Daenerys Targaryen is made by George R.R. Martin, who really kind of wanted to go against a lot of fantasy tropes and pull away from what readers expect. He wants the reader to not be able to predict anything that's going to happen, and that's something he's even struggled with in his writing. It's probably why the next book's taking so long. Compare that to The Wheel of Time, where Robert Jordan was in love with every single fantasy trope and just wanted to do it the best he possibly could. What results is two characters who are earning points for entirely different reasons, and this is reflected most strongly with their origins. Rand al'Thor is the chosen one trope to a T. There is no walking away from the chosen one path origin in any way, shape, or form. He's a farm boy from a small village, picked up by a wizard, taken on a journey he's hesitant to go on. That walks it down the line. But it is one of the best executions of that chosen one trope ever put to page. That is undisputed, and in decades to come, Wheel of Time will age very well because these tropes have stood the test of time. Compare that to Daenerys, who goes against every trope for a protagonist. She's an outcast being sold into a marriage she doesn't want to, being used to gain an army for a throne that's arguably not rightfully her family's anymore, to be brought into wars that she only has connection through blood, and eventually she actually does want to fight these wars. It is a fascinating difference here. I love the execution of both, and what it really came down to for me was, do I include Lews Therin in Rand's origin? I'm going to go with no, because Lews Therin does not become a part of Rand's character until much later on. In the first few books, we just deal with Rand, and this is Rand's origin, and it's just so close to all the tropes and what we expect, and there's so not any surprises that I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Daenerys because her origin just works better for the world it's in, and I feel like Robert Jordan could have taken a few more risks with the beginning couple of books and the way Rand was set up. So the first point here goes to the Mother of Dragons. Now we have development. This is where Rand comes back hitting strong. He is one of the best developed characters of all time, period. There's no debating that. That's not even incorporating Lews Therin being a part of his development and establishing a whole other person inside of Rand al'Thor. Rand is kind of brought from this small farm boy to an actual, basically demigod in an incredibly believable way. He goes through dark and good times. He goes through love and loss and pain, and we walk with him so tightly through all of this that the scenes where he's reunited with his father or he loses a friend become so closely knit with who and how we interpret him that there's no way I cannot give him the development point here. And that's not even talking about how I don't like various aspects of Daenerys' development as the series goes on. I just don't like how quickly she flips switches and becomes a stronger protagonist than we're first introduced to in the series beginning. So the second point here goes to Rand al'Thor by a lot. Now we have role they play in the world they are in. Now, Rand al'Thor is the chosen one trope. It's very kind of hard for him to win this point for me. I don't like chosen ones. I think they're predictable. No author's going to do anything with them that's going to surprise a reader. That being said, Rand's one of the greats. He's absolutely a chosen one who feels like every action he does has weight. There is real moments of worry with him where you think maybe things could go wrong. Then that's just a testament to Robert Jordan's writing. All of that being said, isn't enough to make up for that. Well, let's look at Daenerys. Her role is kind of this outside outcast gatherer as she builds this army to come back to Westeros and reclaim lands that maybe belong to her, maybe don't. It depends on how you look at how succession should go for a throne. Yes, I'm a huge fan of her as a character. I think the role she plays is magnificent and has a lot of weight for the series. Her being this unifying force for the characters that we kind of like the most really works.
That being said,
Rand's role as the Chosen One permeates every event of the Wheel of Time. Every side story, you can feel how this will eventually weigh back on Rand, whether it's the splitting of the Tower or the forming of Manetheren, or even the failing battles in the Borderlands. Everything feels like it's connected to him somehow through the color flashes that go through other characters' heads, thinking of him to just the eventual tumbling of dominoes, knowing that everything will come down to how he faces off with the Dark One. The weight of his role is monstrous. For that reason, I'm actually going to give the Chosen One trope the point for the first time in the history of this bracket, just because of how well done it is for Rand. Now we have interest for the reader. Now, Daenerys' interest never really wanes in any way, shape, or form. She is consistently one of the best characters, whether it's TV show or book. She absolutely is able to engage the reader on every single page she's in. Rand cannot say the same. There is times where his character suffered quite a bit with events going on, and maybe you want to flip ahead and see what Matt, Perrin, or Egwene are up to. That's absolutely fine to admit, and I honestly get there occasionally too, especially earlier on in the series. With that being said, Rand at his peak is a perfect 10 out of 10 for interest, and it's one of those situations where you wish you could read faster just to get to the resolution of what's happening faster. Daenerys never really reached that point for me. She hovers at a solid 8 for interest, while Rand kind of flickers between a 6 to a 10. It's a back and forth that I really can't decide between, and honestly, I just need to call it a draw here. Both of these characters are so interesting on their own merits, and I can't really attribute one over the other, especially with the drastically different writing styles, really pulling these two perspectives far away from each other in the origin of their interests. So this point is actually going to be a wash. Now we have relationships, something that both of these characters really shine strong in, and both of these authors craft wonderfully. These relationships that feel so visceral and real to Rand, the love triangle square, the friends, and the people he has to kill even though he likes, all really lend to him as a character remaining human while he goes through these evolutions of evolving into a borderline god. Daenerys, on the other hand, her relationships are used to show her intelligence and her ability to control and manipulate and lead others, something that I really respect George R. R. Martin's execution as a writer. Both of these are done magnificently, one grounding Rand and the other really promoting Daenerys to a next level status within her series. If it wasn't for the execution of these relationships, she would not be as widely regarded as she is among fans. It's about how she communicates with others. That being said, I have to give the point to Rand here. The love square is decently executed and something I really enjoy about his character, and the relationship internally between Rand with Lews Therin and the madness and other voices and people he's bonded to all pulling at him in different directions are really what bring pain to the surface with him. Every time Lews Therin takes control, every time his mind is not his own, we as the reader really get reminded of the burden that is on his shoulders. It's a relationship that's so internal yet so external in a way. There's a risk it could actually break the Chosen One character we have, and that's the one aspect of the Chosen One character that makes him stand out from the rest of the pack. For that reason, I am giving Rand al'Thor the relationship point. Next, we have who would win in a fight, and to make this even remotely fair, I have to give Daenerys her dragons, and Rand would still win by a significant margin. He can destroy armies of, I think, 100,000-ish is his best feat with the Trollocs in the Borderlands. Someone could correct me with that number, but even if it's in anywhere near that ballpark, Rand is easily probably one of the most powerful fantasy characters of all time, and Daenerys does not stand a chance. Now we have who would do better in the other's world. This is a hard point because Daenerys would probably do fairly well in the Wheel of Time land. She's incredibly charismatic, would play the game of houses very well, and certainly get to a point where she is a force to be reckoned with within this world. She, time and time again, has started from the bottom and gone back up to the top. She loses her power and gains it back so well. Rand, on the other hand, would have a source of magic at his disposal. Assuming we're starting with Emond's Field Rand randomly dropped into Westeros, he would start channeling. And with no one to guide him except for maybe Lews Theron's voice slowly coming into his consciousness, he would be dangerous and hopefully gain some modicum of control. If he did gain that, he would be the unquestioned most powerful person in Westeros. No one could come close to his level of magic use. Unfortunately, it would eventually backfire, and his own powers would consume and destroy him because he has no way of curing the madness within Westeros. It would absolutely cause him to go insane and die, and likely cause irreparable damage to Westeros itself in the meantime. This final point's gonna go to Daenerys. She's gonna do much better in the Wheel of Time than Rand ever could in Westeros. This was a hard video to do for quite a few reasons. Both of these characters are so great that comparing them feels almost silly. How do you compare two almost perfect executions of entirely different concepts? It kind of makes the whole reason this tournament exists a little clearer for me to talk about characters that I really love. It's what I got to do here. I know some Game of Thrones fans are going to be upset seeing this happen, but it's anyone who's read The Wheel of Time, I think, would back me up here. Randall Thor is just a wonderful execution of a tired trope that's done so well. It almost brings life back to that trope itself. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you'd like to support the channel and what I do here. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.